Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. OP, how in the world you could work with such craphead management, I'll never be able to comprehend. If I was in your position, I would ask them to raise my salary every time they ask me to do something outside of my responsibilities. Either that or simply not do it. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. You can go home once this is done. Back when I worked in the warehouse, we had a manager, M, and an area manager, AM, who were both lazy and sneaky. One of the biggest responsibilities the M and AM had was stock take. Every 4 to 5 months, they had to do a stock take of the store and the warehouse. Now, the warehouse was always at least a solid day's worth of work to stock take. I'm talking 6:30 a.m. start until 7 p.m. It was expected of the M and AM that they would leave the sales floor, and the two of them would go into every nook and cranny of the warehouse and count each and every item. It's crappy work, but they had to do it. The reason it fell to the M and AM to do is that anytime an auditor could show up, pick up the stock inventory list, and demand to see an item. If the count was off, it was up to the M and AM to explain to the big bosses why there was a dollar amount discrepancy. Now, this manager was a B. She was sales hungry and sneaky. She refused to leave the sales floor to stock take or anything, and therefore left it in my hands, the warehouse casual. In this particular case, I'd requested for the day off because I had an acting class at 4:30 p.m. The AM had called me and begged me to come in, even offering to pay me double time to compensate for the crappy task at hand. I say sure thing, but I have to leave by 4 p.m. to get my bus on time so I can still make my class. AM says no problem. So I show up at 6:15 a.m. ready to work, and the B manager is there with the AM. M, now OP, you have to make sure the entire warehouse is done today. Me, wow boss, that seems like a lot of work. M, smug, that's what you're getting paid to do. Me, cool, just reminding you guys that I have to be out at 4 p.m. M, you can leave once everything is done, not before. Me, boss, just to be clear, I can only leave once stock take is done? M, with a smug glint in her eye, that's what I said. Me, even if we go past 4 p.m.? M leans in close so AM can't hear her. You're getting paid for the day regardless of the time it takes, so get to work. No problem. M and AM go back to the sales floor to finish off their Starbucks coffees. They didn't pick up anything for me and leave me to my task. Now, what they didn't know is that myself and my offsiders went through the warehouse the day before and did an entire stock count together. It took half the time with 5 of us, and we clearly labeled everything. So I sit down and copy the count we have done on some scraps of paper and duplicate it on the official stock take document. By the time I'm done, it's 8 a.m. Well, job's done. As per my manager and AM orders, I can leave once the job's done. I close up the warehouse, drop the paperwork off at the counter, and head home to enjoy my now full paid day off. Edit number 1. For those asking why we did a random stock take the day before, we'd all worked there long enough to know when the stock takes would happen. Also, as the warehouse workers, we would make sure all the products were stocked in an easy fashion and labeled to make the process easier. It was also obvious when it would happen, as the manager would complain the entire week before it would happen, so I began to keep my own records of the stock we had, especially since I wouldn't put it past my manager or AM to throw us under the bus to an auditor. And our second story. I got fired today. First, my actual job is driving a truck. Today, I went about 200 miles to drop off a tank and pick another one up. I was told it'd be several hours before my return tank was clean and ready. I came down with a cold yesterday and slept for an extra hour, so I didn't make breakfast or lunch for today because I was tired and a bit late. I decided to leave my trailer there and go find a place I could get some food and cold medicine. Well, I found a place. I pulled in and parked pretty far away as I take 4 spots and wouldn't want someone to complain. As I went in, I noticed a bus from an old folks' home outside. I found my way to the pantry section to look at what food was available and was kindly asked a question by one of the nice people from the nursing home. I spent a good 30 minutes talking to them and helping them out, because I had nothing better to do anyway. They were also clearly very happy to have someone to talk to. I should probably mention that I didn't have a cart because I was only getting a few things. I think it's also important to note that I was dressed like a hobo because I work with chemicals, and even though the ones I personally handle are relatively keyword, safe, I have a 2-year-old at home and throw out anything with any sort of contact before going into the house. So yeah, I look like a hobo when I work. A well-dressed lady walked up to me and basically thrust her crap pile of papers into my chest and said, "Follow me to my car." I was a bit confused, and unfortunately for me, I wasn't prepared and dropped half of her crap. Before I said anything, I bent down to try to pick it up when she got a bit nasty. "Sorry, but hurry up. Hurry up, I gotta be somewhere." She did say sorry first, so being nice, I picked her crap up and tried to hand it back to her, but she was already walking away and told me to come, like I was a dog. I got pretty annoyed, so I put her stuff on a shelf and walked away myself. A few minutes later, as I got to the register, I hear the clicking of heels and turned just in time to have her walk up to me and ask where her stuff was. I told her I left it on the shelf, and she looked completely confused and asked why. I responded that she probably should have asked politely if she needed help, and she lost it. "You're fired." She looked at who must have been the manager. "He's fired, you hear me?" The manager just said, looking kinda embarrassed, and she must have picked up on it by then, kept staring at her to continue, "He doesn't work here." "And he won't ever," she responded as she walked away to get her stuff. I paid for my stuff, and the poor cashier was half trying to make sure I was okay and half trying not to laugh. She told me the lady was from corporate and is supposed to check up on stores. I really wish I would have said something witty, but I was half in shock at what happened and how poorly this professional woman handled herself. Update. I wasn't going to call corporate because I find this situation almost amusing, but that people have to work under her and she likely treats them this way, so I did. They took some info and I was promised a callback so far. Update 2. Got a call back from a guy on their customer experience team. He was really cool, offered me a bunch of free stuff, which I don't really want, and they told me they know without a doubt who was where, but because of her position, his boss would be handling it. He took my exact receipt number to check with the cashier and said he would get some things together and his boss would be calling me to follow up. I got the distinct impression that this guy is in a similar position to the woman the complaint's about, and all he could do was send it up the ladder. Update 3. The VP of Customer Service called me today. He was extremely down to earth and apologetic. He understood that I didn't want anything, and my concern was more for how this woman would treat employees and how she would likely get away with it. He agreed, but had already refunded my purchase to my card before calling me. He described the woman to me, and I confirmed it was her. He said she does indeed work for corporate, but is part of a team of contracted consultants. His first reaction would be to fire her, but it would be more complicated than that with her contract. He said these particular consultants have nothing to do with customer service and should have zero control and little contact with employees in store except department managers. This particular company's contract is reviewed quarterly, and he's already asked her company to remove her from the next round of renewals, which is set for July. He's also already sent out emails, but has scheduled a meeting with their team leader to make it clear that they are contractors for a specific function and store employees do not work for them. He doesn't know what action her company will take against her, if any. Maybe it's not the best result, but I was glad to get an honest answer. So yeah, she fired me, and not only did I not work there, she was a contractor and couldn't fire me if I did. And our last story. Today, I came home to a new fence in my backyard, and nobody knows where it came from. We live in a row home, and the house attached to ours is vacant. It's been on the market since before we moved in, and nobody's lived in it for at least 7 years. There was a small cast iron fence between the 2 yards on my property line that went from under the fire escape to the brick garage. I removed that fence as it was on my property about a month ago and installed brand new beautiful sod. Well, I came home today, and this disgusting mismatched random combination of fences has been erected between the yards. Part of it goes over my property line, crushing the sod at the bottom of the fire escape. The leprechauns, or whoever installed it, stepped all over my grass to do so, and to top it all off, they gave us the ugly side, which is totally against fence etiquette. I don't know who owns it, so I called the real estate agent. He was just as shocked as I was when I told him there had been a fence built at a house he was selling. He had no idea. He'll be in contact with the owner of the property tomorrow, but she's a 70-year-old woman who doesn't live here, and he said he can't imagine why she would have a fence built. I asked my neighbor on the other side if she saw anything. She didn't. Update. I found the fence on Thursday. Saturday, I was having about a dozen people over for a family birthday party, so the eyesore of a fence had to go, one way or another. So on Friday morning, I had a follow-up call with the realtor who knew nothing about the fence, and he told me that the homeowner didn't either. I called my neighborhood civil council president to let him know about it, and he told me about encroachment issues, as the fence was on my property, but also let me know that in my city, a permit is not required to build this type of fence. I installed security cameras around my house, 2 of which have either full or partial view of the neighboring backyard. I also took to heart the idea that there may be squatters living or preparing to live in the house next door. If I find anything on my security cameras indicating there may be squatters, I'll be informing the police. So on Friday afternoon, I removed the fencing in its multiple different pieces and gently leaned them against the brick garage, with the exception of one door-sized section, which I put against the basement door in case there are indeed squatters entering through there. Saturday, Sunday, and Monday came and went without any indication that the yard was entered again, and the fencing over the basement door hasn't moved. We still don't know who built the fence or why, but it doesn't seem like anyone cares. And at least now I don't have an abomination of a fence to stare at anymore. I'll likely build my own fence, though, one that looks good and is structurally sound, and that spans my property line. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.